Hey everybody, this is Grok.IT, episode 6, May the 10th, 2013. I am your host, Brandon, with my co-host, Sir Spoticus.
Do you want me to tell you something that's really very surprising? I don't think anyone would have seen coming. World of Warcraft lost 1.3 million subscribers over 3 months.
I'm not surprised they lost that many, but I'm surprised they lost them that fast.
Oh, I'm not. Mist of Pandaria, man.
I mean...
World of Warcraft is a directed experience. They came out with new content. They got a bunch new subscribers, more or less old subscribers back, right? They play through the content, and they're done again.
I guess I thought that, because they've also been slowly adding little bits here and there, that at least that would have kept them for a bit longer. But, you know, I guess...
Here's the deal. The way I look at it is... And I'll preface this by saying that I am not a World of Warcraft person. I played it a little bit. I was never a huge thing. But it's obviously a very well-designed, well-made game. Right? It is definitely one of the most successful titles in the industry ever.
Yeah.
And I think that it's commendable that it's done this well for this long, considering how old it is, because it is old.
Oh, yeah.
It's really old. So I don't think Blizzard's worried. I think that they may be surprised that it's held on this long. And they've got something new on the stove. We all know that.
Well, you think about it. $15 a month to play this game with 8 million subscribers. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found interesting is back in November of 2012, they had 10 million. So it's dropped a full 2 million since then. And so I'm wondering if we're going to see it drop down to the 5 million mark before the next expansion or below.
I would like to know what portion of their retention is based on simply people who are in love with the lore and that world, as opposed to people who actually feel that the gameplay is better than other options.
Oh yeah, honestly, I think the people who are there are held there by the other people who are there. They're already in a guild that they enjoy playing with, so they're gonna stay there. I think that's most of the retention.
We see a lot of those super guilds and stuff moving to other games as well. Yeah, there's that social cohesion. It's like a glue, keeps everyone there, which is great. You know, that's fine. Again, I find it very commendable that it's held on this long, and probably will, I would say, for another year or two.
Oh, definitely. I'm really excited to see their next endeavor, just because they had, was it Activision or Blizzard that came out with Rift?
Well, Activision and Blizzard are the same company now, but
yeah, but they're still kind of split.
So you mean who published it?
Yeah,
because it's Tryon. But yeah, I mean, Rift is a pretty good game, but
it's good. It flopped though. It's a good game, but it wasn't.
I wouldn't say it flopped. I mean, it did pretty good. Now, it probably flopped compared to what they were hoping.
Yeah.
And actually, Rift was actually published by Tryon as well, so they didn't have another publisher. And that might have hurt them. But back to Blizzard now.
Here's the thing is, they haven't had a new IP in over 10 years.
Which they haven't needed one, but yeah.
Needed is, you know, opinion. I'm interested in seeing what they can come up with now. I would like to see their creative talent go again. Because you've seen they've made StarCraft and they've made Warcraft, you know, those two universes which are so big, and they made the Diablo universe, which is the 3 big hits. And it's kind of like the Nintendo thing where they've done such great things. I'd like to see them do more great things instead of just rehashing those stuff they already have. So
well, I mean, I think that it makes sense that the next MMO that they're coming for is probably completely new IP.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, they're not going to bring out an MMO based on Diablo when they just released Diablo 3.
Yeah.
They're not going to bring out an MMO based on StarCraft because StarCraft 2, and they're still pumping that.
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to come out with another Warcraft MMO this soon.
No.
I don't think it makes sense. I think we may actually see some new IP.
Honestly, I'd be excited to see not a multiplayer game from them.
Yeah, well, we know they're working on an MMO already.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'd be excited to see a completely new... Because, here's the thing, the Warcraft, you know, because it's World of Warcraft, well, that came from Warcraft. And so, I'd be excited to see what they can actually do.
I think one thing we can say about Blizzard is that whatever they come out with is going to be highly polished and probably very well done. Because there's something about Blizzard, even with things like the whole fiasco with Diablo 3 and people not liking it and stuff, it still comes down to it's all relative. Were there problems with Diablo 3? Yes. Was Diablo 3 a crappy title? Absolutely not. When you have a studio that functions at that level of production quality, even something on the low side is still usually far better than most other options.
Yeah.
So I think that whatever we see will be definitely worth seeing.
Speaking of new IPs. EA just signed a multi-year Star Wars game deal with Disney. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I don't have any major issue with EA. At first, when I was reading it, I was concerned because I'm like, well, the problem with EA is they're involved with so many studios, you don't know who's going to get it. But then they actually mentioned DICE and Visceral by name, and I was like, okay, now that's really cool. Visceral do a Star Wars game would be really awesome.
Well, what they said is they are using Frostbite 3 for most of their games. And they actually came out and they said no new EA games are pretty much ever going to be on the Wii U because it can't handle Frostbite 3.
Well, there you go.
And they also came out and said we tried to put Frostbite 2 on the Wii U, or was it on the Wii U or the Wii? One of the two, and it didn't look promising. And so that was just something add-on that I saw. But yeah, I'm excited because I really liked the Old Republic, and I loved KOTOR and whatnot, and so I'm excited to see what gets done, because everybody keeps talking about the Battlefield 3 game that never got published and everything, so seeing if they could revive that, which is interesting. This side company is making Battlecry, which is basically a Battlefront game using CryEngine 3.
Yeah, I saw that. Actually, it's not really a company, it's just a group. They're like a mod group. And the thing is, they do not have licensing rights.
Gotcha.
Right? And in their FAQ, there's questions about that. And they're like, yeah, so we could be shut down, but we're not worried. I was thinking, I wonder if they had the we're not worried in there before or after Disney acquired Lucas. Because the thing is this, most companies that allow large fan-based creations like that to continue are only companies that don't have something else that they're going to try to tap that particular part of the audience. And if Disney thinks that they're going to tap something like that, which they probably are, yeah, especially with DICE, you're not going to see DICE doing an RTS or even an RPG.
No.
Maybe, but that would be weird. DICE is going to do a first-person shooter.
Well, you could have BioWare doing an RPG, like Dragon Age style.
Sure, but Battlefield was a first-person shooter.
Yeah, no, right? I got that. I just
whatever DICE is doing is going to probably be a competition to that, and since that's not licensed, Disney won't get anything off of it, and I can almost guarantee you they're going to shut it down because Disney just spent $4 billion, and they're going to try to recoup that. And I guarantee you, Disney is probably thinking the same thing that a lot of other people have been thinking, that the Star Wars franchise could be milked so much more than it has been. And they're going to do it.
Oh, yeah,
and I don't have a problem with that as long as we don't get a lot of cruddy titles. And to be honest, I think with Disney, we're going to get a lot less cruddy titles than with Lucas in charge.
I liked the prequels.
No, I'm talking specifically on the game side.
Gotcha. I think another thing is CryEngine 3. They're going to want to show off Frostbite 3 as much as they possibly can. And so they're not going to want any Star Wars game using anything other than Frostbite 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all about bottom line, though.
Yeah.
Is it going to hit their bottom line, and that's what they care about the most. I think that this deal with EA is actually really great from Disney's point of view because they're going to get probably a wide diversity of different products, and they only have to manage the overhead of one relationship. I think from their point of view, they're a big enough company, they've been around a long time, that they understand that you have hit and misses. It doesn't matter how hard you try. EA has, I'd say, a record that overall has pretty good
they've
quality.
come out with some pretty good games. Another thing that I'm kind of hoping is when the Kinect first came out, I know me and all my buddies immediately were like, man, you can make a pretty awesome Star Wars game with that.
Part of it, would you want to?
What do you mean?
Be connected.
I mean, like, think about it. Like, the 1-to-1 movement ratio, holding a lightsaber, and...
Okay, so, like, lightsaber fights and
using the Force and that kind of stuff.
I gotcha.
Aren't
there games already out there that do that?
Not that well. They're all rail shooters, pretty much.
See, that's the problem, though. It's like...
Yeah.
Providing spatial movement.
Well, the thing is
difficult.
Is now that the new Kinect can sense individual finger movements, like it's going to be that good. And so I think you're going to be able to come up with ways that fixes that.
Like to actually move your character within...
Like maybe holding your hand a certain way, like, having it so the lightsaber is pointed parallel and your hand is just a certain way and you'll turn to that and move in that direction.
Gotcha. So almost like you're in a wheelchair, an electric wheelchair.
Kind of, yeah.
And so you're holding the little joystick and you can move forward?
Basically, you're going to be Yoda at his oldest age, trying to get around the swamp, fighting off wombats.
Are there wombats in the Dagobah swamps?
Yes.
Really? Are you sure about this?
No.
Yes, but I think that Disney and EA probably understand the whole, thing that they can put out probably 3 Star Wars titles a year and not saturate
definitely
the audience, because people are voracious for Star Wars stuff if they're fans.
Love it.
Yeah, absolutely not. Speaking of war and in the stars. The new Ender's Game trailer was released.
Yes.
And I've been looking forward to this movie for a long time. Obviously, Ender's Game is like legend. I'm going to go out on a rope here and claim that you probably haven't read it. Oh, you have it. Okay. So,
Look,
Ender's Game.
it wasn't a required read like it was for most people for me, and so I didn't read it.
Ender's Game is a required read, trust me.
No, I mean like school-wise.
It is epic, trust me.
Gotcha.
It's pretty much kids trained to play a real-time strategy game that is real.
Gotcha.
To save humanity. Yeah.
Huh.
The cast is amazing. Like there's so many Oscar-nominated people, a few winners. Butterfield is an awesome choice for Ender, and I can't really discuss this with you because you haven't read the book, but when you read it, I think you'll understand that to actually use him for Ender is just awesome. He's perfect. I couldn't think of anyone better. So yeah, I mean, it should be really, really great. I'm very interested to see who they get. I mean, and you can find that out now, but how they portray Bean, because that'll be very interesting. And anyone who's read Ender's Game out there will know what I mean. But for you, one of the books that was written, there's a bunch of Ender's Game books, and one of the books that was written a bit afterward was actually called Ender's Shadow. And it took place at the exact same time as Ender's Game, but there's this other little kid, because they're all kids in this thing. It's a command type thing. This other little kid, and he's a lot smaller, and his name is Bean. And he more or less follows Ender around, and they're friends, but he's almost always in his shadow, and that's why the book is called Ender's Shadow, and it's everything from his point of view, and it's actually a really, really good book. It's actually my favorite book. I liked it more than Ender's Game, but of course you couldn't have appreciated it without reading Ender's Game. So, but yeah, it should be really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to it, and of course Harrison Ford, kick-ass, you know.
Oh, definitely.
So, and Ben Kingsley. Hello.
Well,
so,
he never turns down a role, I don't think so.
Yeah, you've noticed that, huh?
Yeah.
Which, you know what? You kind of have to respect him for that.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't care. You know, I'll be in really shitty movies. That's not a problem.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? And it's not like he needs the money, so I think that he just probably enjoys acting.
Yeah.
There you go.
I think he's actually realized that we've picked up on it, and so that's why he does it.
Yeah,
it's like,
there you go.
Let me see how many. But a movie that I've been really excited for is Pacific Rim. Did you ever watch the show Big O?
No.
Okay, well, it was amazing. Basically, big robots fight other big robots, and it's awesome. Well, when I first saw the Pacific Rim trailer, immediately I thought, is this Big O live action? And I got super, super excited and everything, and it wasn't. I cried for days. I'm super excited. It looks good, and all of the Valve fanboys are gonna say, "Oh, it's got the voice of Gladys in it," but it's not it's not the exact voice. Like, they got the person, but they're not using a Gladys voice. But it looks good. It looks like it's gonna be very actiony.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I'm a big Guillermo del Toro fan. The Hellboy movies were great, especially Hellboy 2, which was freaking gorgeous. I mean, the art direction and the production design on Hellboy 2 is just amazing. Have you seen Hellboy 2?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, don't say, oh yeah, you didn't even read Ender's Game. You know, I can't make any assumptions now.
Okay.
You're a blank
Okay,
plate.
let me clear this up. At the time when, like, most people were reading Ender's Game, I was reading, like, World War II era, not era books, but the setting was World War II, so I was reading, stuff like that, and war books, and, I wasn't into the sci-fi fantasy stuff at that time.
Okay, I'll just point out something. I understand what you're saying, I'm just giving you a hard time. I'll point out something, though. When most people were reading Ender's Game, you were reading C Spot Run, because Ender's Game came out in 1985.
I wasn't alive then.
See, the real difference here between you and I is that I'm old. Too old. And I actually turned 34 this month. Ugh. What I'm also looking forward to is, obviously, Star Trek Into Darkness. I have issues with the fact that they completely rebooted the universe, but if they were going to do it, I'm glad that they kind of made it work somehow. They didn't just cut it off. Yes, I just made kind of a fart sound with my mouth. That was not cool. I'm actually looking forward to Man of Steel. I'm not a Superman fan. I've never been a big fan of the comics or anything. But I'll tell you, I'm a big trailer fan, as I said, and they have some of the best cut trailers I've seen in a long time. I mean, like, wow. I'm also looking forward to R.I.P.D. Have you seen the trailer for it?
I have not.
It's really interesting. It's probably right up your alley. It's almost like stupid fun, but it's Jeff Bridges and
you already got me sold.
Yeah, and what's his name? Who played the Green Lantern?
Ryan Reynolds.
Yes.
Yes.
The whole thing. You know what's funny? I'm not a Ryan Reynolds fan either, but this looks like it might be worth it. What it is they're law enforcement people that they have died, and now they work for the Rest in Peace department.
Huh.
And the whole thing is they go, kind of like how Men in Black do with aliens, and there's aliens living among you. Yeah, there's people living among us, and they're actually dead, and they go and find them. And you got to see the trailer to understand Jeff Bridges' character is wacky, crazy, stupid funny.
I like Ryan Reynolds. He's one of my top favorite actors.
So why did you just make a funny face?
Because I was excited.
Oh, you were excited. Okay.
Yeah.
What I'm also looking forward to kind of is the new Thor. And the reason is mainly because I'm not really into the whole Thor type mythology thing. It's just not my bag. But the first Thor blew me away. I was expecting to be like, and I saw it and it was so good. So this one, I'm just really interested to see what they come out with, because it should be really interesting. And so anyway, it'll be good.
Definitely.
And Natalie Portman's fun. I mean, I'm not one of those people that finds her like drop dead hot or anything, but I think she's cute. She's
honestly, the thing that I like the most about Natalie Portman is something she said. She goes, "I only pick roles that show strong women."
Well, there you go.
I think that's really cool, and she went to Harvard while making movies, so I think that's super cool.
Every role I see her in, I just wanted to see her say, jump in and somehow fit it into the conversation and say something like, my people are dying while you sit around and discuss it in a committee.
I would, yes.
That would just be awesome.
Yeah. I love Natalie Portman. Speaking of women, sexism, not the only reason for lack of women, says Pratchett. Pratchett is a woman. By the way, Rihanna Pratchett.
Isn't she the writer for Tomb Raider?
I think so.
The new Tomb Raider? Yeah, she's the writer for the new Tomb Raider.
One of the things she says is, it's not male attitudes which keep women out of game development or cause them to burn out, but instead it's a combination of poor work-life balancing conditions, a lack of awareness of opportunities out there, and dwindling creative diversity. And these are problems that have a huge impact on the industry as a whole. And one of the things I want to hit on with this is the whole the poor work-life balancing conditions.
Okay, actually, that's great, because I was going to ask you to hold on, because I wanted to ask you something. But what I was going to ask is, what do you think work-life balancing conditions means exactly?
I think there's actually been studies, and I'll bring the studies up in a minute, but with video game developers, in the beginning things are kind of more lax, but as crunch time happens, you end up never leaving the office. The fact that, at crunch time, work gets very, very difficult, and studies have, these government studies have actually shown with the whole, the wage gap thing, is that women tend to stray away from more demanding jobs, and this was a government study, that they tend to go towards a job where they don't have to do overtime or as much overtime, and that they prefer jobs that are closer and that kind of stuff. And that
This is because of family?
They didn't actually make any mention of family. They just said women in general tend to do these things. In the study, that's what they found. I think that's a very true thing, because I think the video game industry at that crunch time is so much harder than maybe having to work a bit of overtime in an office job to make sure something gets done, because your entire job can depend on it. If this game doesn't turn out well, then they can fire you.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think the issue I see with that is that it sounds like I would be concerned about making that statement, right? Because it sounds like the results of that test, what they're saying is that women aren't willing to work as hard as men. Which just sounds like a whole bag of I'm not going to mess with that.
Okay, that is not what the study was saying. The study was saying is that it's not that they're not willing, it's that what it more showed is that men tend to do more overtime and work those more high-stress jobs that happen to pay more, and they earn more, and that actually messes up that it's not actually 74 cents to the dollar, that it's actually closer to 95 cents to the dollar.
So they're saying it's more of an organic thing, that they just tend to not take those jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
But it may not even be a conscious thing. It's
exactly. It's just something that happens, and that men are, that subconsciously, I guess, or whatever, that men tend to work more high stress, high demand jobs. And so I think you see that here in the video game industry, where, because I have seen some amazing creative women and men. I think with this, and I think now that video games are becoming more popular, you're going to see more women growing up and entering the video game world for creating. But I think that the crunch time of it all, like she says, might get to it.
Yeah, and that's what really needs to be changed and fixed, and I think that she mentions that. The problem is that, again, it all comes down to the bottom line, right? And as she also points out, that the only way that companies are going to change anything is if they actually witness the impact on their bottom line, so they actually see. It's difficult for them to go, okay, we're missing out on this much of our audience because we don't have the female gender influencing our design process, etc., when they've never had that part of the audience before, so they can't actually see it missing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think hopefully we'll have more studies and audience testing and things like that, which are focused on understanding these types of things, and so that hole or that gap in their audience participation will become more of a blaring issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Which will help executives make the proper calls.
Speaking of game development, so Scribblenauts, the people who made Scribblenauts, put in two little, I don't know if they were Easter eggs or what. One was Nyan Cat. They put in a bunch of memes into this game. Well, two of the people, Keyboard Cat and Nyan Cat, filed copyright and trademark infringement against Warner Bros. And Fifth Cell Media because their characters appeared in the game and they were not asked.
My question on this, and I haven't researched this, but did either of these parties, when they first published these things, did they include any type of usage rights? Did they include any type of copyright or trademark symbol notifications?
I don't know about that, but it does say that they do have applications pending in the Patent and Trademark Office for their creations.
But
now, the thing is, what?
Nyan Cat's been around forever.
Yeah.
When did they file?
Basically, he also wanted to make clear that despite reports in the media, Nyan Cat was copyrighted in 2011. So it was copyrighted in 2011. Under copyright law, once something is recorded, it gets copyright protection.
Sure.
That's how the law works, that you are granted it once it's recorded.
Yeah.
And so whether they actually have, the patents or whatever or not, they still do have that copyright protection because it was their creation.
Yeah. I have all types of issue with this, right? I mean, I'm not any advocate of people running around and stealing people's stuff, but, there's a certain point where, as a copyright holder, you would go after people because they are causing you harm. Right? So, for example, as we were talking about before with the Star Wars franchise license and this Battlecry fan mod, that could cause Disney and EA harm because it could take sales away from them, right?
Yeah.
In this particular case, Nyan Cat and Keyboard Cat, I seriously doubt we're developing a game that had anything remotely to do with the same audience as this game.
Well, so, I think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, it looks like this is completely a punitive thing. They're just looking for money. That's the whole thing. And that's a problem. And if they win it, it could mean some serious things for other projects in the future.
I get what you're saying. At the same time, they put this stuff in there knowing that people would be like, oh yeah, it's got all these memes in it, and it's really funny.
But the whole thing about this is they didn't advertise any of these. I read about something about this before a few days ago. They didn't advertise any of these things. They were unlocked and found. So none of the advertising that sold the game, no one bought the game because of this, because they didn't know about it.
At first, word of mouth is a very powerful advertising thing. And the fact that...
Sure, but again, the whole thing is, okay, what did the copyrights lose? Because it's not competing with any product they have.
Honestly, I agree that they're not losing out on anything, but it's still in the wrong to do what they did.
Sure, but the whole thing is they put in math. This isn't one of those. I don't know if you've played Scribblenauts.
No.
This isn't one of those things where they went and they're like, we're going to take these two things and we're going to put them in our game because it'll make it better. They were trying to find every single cultural reference, every type of meme type thing, anything that could remotely be known at all, and put it in the game so that you could use it in your scribbles, right?
I get that. The thing
In fact, to be perfectly honest, they probably didn't even know that Nine Cat was copyrighted, because who in their right mind would copyright such an annoying thing? Sorry, that's my little personal thing coming out. Drives me out of my mind. But anyway, the point is, should they have done it if they knew all the information? Probably not, because you might have the copyright holder looking for a quick cash day and come after you. But the whole thing is, Fifth Sail is not a large company, so something like this could take them down.
Well, Warner Bros. They also have, the Warners. The thing with this is, I think it would be better if, they just actually came out and said, hey, do you mind if we do this?
Right, which actually lends another piece of evidence to the fact that they didn't even know it was copyrighted.
I think that's a fail on their part. I think if you're going to take something...
Sure, but Scribblenauts was first released in 2009. When did they say Nyan Cat was copyrighted?
Before its appearance in Scribblenauts Alt Unlimited in 2012 is the one that it was in. Scribblenauts Unlimited was released in 2012.
Right, and so and it was copyrighted in 2011.
Yes.
Right, so
it was a new version of... It was a new version of the game.
Most games take more than a year to make. So it's very possible it was not copyrighted when they put it in there. They just weren't watching everything they put in there and watching every single month to see if anything got copyrighted, which I can see myself not doing. But anyway.
It's possible, yeah. I still think that if you're going to use someone else's design, whether it's copyrighted or not...
I agree completely.
You should get their permission, which they didn't do.
On another note, I think that the copyright holder, this is complete greed.
Yeah, I agree completely with that.
And the reason you shouldn't do it might be somewhat of a moral one, and then the other one is you might get a greedy mofo come after you because they're greedy. So there you go.
Internet sales tax passed the Senate. I'm not really all that worried about it, but it's going to make it...
Well, it still has to pass the House. And as we all know, the House is like... as they're just running around throwing food at each other. I haven't looked into this extremely deep, but on the surface, it looks like a pretty fair thing.
Exactly.
I'm blown away that it took this long.
Well, you're supposed to write down in your tax forms what you bought online, and people don't, obviously.
This is like that you own a kingdom, right?
Yeah.
And you own a kingdom, sorry. You rule a kingdom. Okay,
yes.
This medieval times. And you have this main trade route. And there's a toll on this trade route. And the toll is based pretty much on how much stuff you're bringing with you. And due to technology or advancements, whatever, another road starts getting built and gets built not too far away. You can see it. And you're like, every month, every year, you're like, man, so much more of these people are taking that road over there instead of this one. And you're like, I rule that road over there as well. Why don't I put a tax on that? I'll wait. It makes no sense whatsoever. I just cannot understand it. I mean, obviously, online sales have been at a point for a long time where they probably need to be taxed, and it's amazing that it took this long. I'm flabbergasted. Anyway.
Oh, definitely. But that also means that your MMO and in-game purchases and all that kind of stuff are going to get taxed.
Sure. The thing is that usually what happens is we won't see a tax. We'll see those things get a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Because that's what they do to make it easier. They just roll it into thing. Right. And the thing is, I would challenge someone to be able to actually prove that the majority of your normal consumer that buys things online are even aware that they don't pay a tax.
Yeah.
Because it's so normal, a sales tax is so normal, and it's so common day practice. I can almost guarantee you most people who buy things online assume they're already paying a tax. I'm just going to throw on something real quick at the end here. Anyone who's interested, the new free-to-play MMO Neverwinter, that's based in the Dungeons & Dragons world from Cryptic and Perfect World, is now an open beta. So you can go there, just Google for Neverwinter.
I've heard really good things about it.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Supposedly the AI is really good. Like they actually mix things up and use their different abilities intelligently, quote unquote, of course. But it is an action, so there is some aiming, just so you know. But the aiming is it's weird. It's like you have to just get in the general area, and then it kind of locks. It doesn't lock on, but like you can. I'm playing a mage, and so I have magic missile, and I can just get in the area, and she'll shoot, and it'll hit the closest target, right? So it's not like you can miss, if that makes sense.
Huh,
which I know you hate missing.
Anyway,
You have. You said that you like to build your skill tree and stuff,
Yeah.
and you don't want to lose something because you missed. So
Yeah.
in this, it seems very difficult, if not impossible, to miss.
I'm definitely going to be checking it out. But
Sure.
thanks everybody who has made it this far to listen.
We have
Yeah.
such great confidence in ourselves.
Yeah. As always, we like to hear from you guys, so comment below. And tell us what movies you're excited for, because we like to talk to you guys, and we're always looking for new co-hosts.
It's more than that, really. Brandon
Yeah.
is desperate for a new co-host.
I will do stuff. I'm just leaving
Okay,
it.
no,
I'm just leaving it at that. So record yourself and like upload it to SoundCloud or something, and then our email is down below in the description. Send it to that email. Don't send the recording to that email. Send us the link to the recording in that email, and we will have a listen and a way to contact you. Of course, we enjoy bringing people on and talking with us, because a lot of the stuff me and Spot have already talked about, and so we like fresh opinions and views on stuff. So anyway, thank you.
Yep, thanks
Thank
everybody.
you for listening. You guys are all grand.